Let's get started here. I'm just going to make a little introduction here. Logistics. We would like you to, if you've got questions, which we will take at the end of this, we've got a few questions up front that we're going to interview the panelists. But for the questions at the end, if you use the Q&A feature at the bottom, instead of, there's two features, there's a chat and Q&A. So if you use the Q&A, that's what we'd like you to use to ask your questions, okay? Doing a session like this has been something that I've been wanting to do for at least 5 years now. And it's for some very personal reasons, and it has something to do with my own experience where I've been chanting now for a long time. And back when I started chanting, a lot of what we had to use was Kazan, and a lot of people complained because the music seemed to put the emphasis in the wrong syllable and stuff like that. And now I understand it's a lot deeper than that. But we didn't have a lot of really good music to be able to chant to. And I've seen this progression happen over my whole experience of being a chanter. And a lot of the, I would say the huge sea change in the way people think about this is in the compositions that we have from people like our composers that we have here on this forum. And so I thought a forum for Archdiocese by the composers of the Byzantine music that probably represents about 90% of the properly composed music on our website it would be a really wonderful thing, because I'd like people to appreciate what goes into composing new hymns in English. We really struggled back when I started. Sometimes we wrote our own things because what we were given didn't work. That didn't mean that what we wrote was 100% correct either, but it was better than some of this stuff. And now we have people who really know what they're doing, to say it mildly. And so I'm so happy that it took a virtual SMI to get our panelists together here. You can read up on their bios. I believe Chris has posted everyone's bio somewhere out there in the SMI. But you'll learn about our composers here, through some of the questions I'm going to be asking them anyway. But just to introduce, who is here, we've got Deacon John El-Masih, who is the head of our Byzantine committee. We've got Shadi Karim up here. Actually, they could be in different places than I'm seeing them. Then we've got Dr. Jessica Suki Palalis from Crane School of Music in Potsdam, New York. So first, I just want to say welcome to the three of you to this panel discussion. First ever at the SMI was to take to compose Byzantine music. And as I said in the description, if you think this is easy just because it's just a melody, with an Isan, think again, because there's a lot of thought that goes into that. So first question I have for the panelists, and I'm going to start with Deacon John and then to Shadi and Jessica. How long had you been chanting before you started composing?
25 years, I would say.
Wow, okay. Yeah.
I mean, composing, like before,
Before you started composing Byzantine music?
Like something like serious, 25 years.
Okay. Shadi?
So I have been chanting for at least 30 years. And I think I did not start composing right away. But what I used to do, like the way I started was like to listen to some hymns in Greek and write the music down and then adapt them to Arabic before starting to write music. And like that happened back in Lebanon, and for like probably 5 to 6 years. And then my first official composition was the service of Saint Nectarios in Arabic.
Okay. Interesting. And Dr. Jessica?
I think I'm coming from the whole opposite end here, just about the time I began chanting. But so it was almost simultaneously, not quite, but just about. But I didn't begin till I was a graduate student at the Eastman School, and that was back in the 1970s. So it's been a long time, and I can talk about more why that happened if you want, or we can just go on.
Yeah, let's get through the main questions, but are you saying that you hadn't been chanting before that, but you started, as you started getting into the chanting, you started exploring composition?
Because I'm coming from from the other end. I wanted to be able to write hymns, so I'd better be able to chant.
Oh, interesting. I understand what you're saying now. Okay,
But
very.
how that whole process happened is, something maybe that can come
Okay.
in later.
Okay, now one thing that all three of you have in common is you learned how to chant in languages other than English, right? So, what motivated you to start composing Byzantine hymns, in English? And we'll start with Deacon John again.
I mean, mainly the need.
So
I mean, nobody will
what did you see when you came here?
So, I mean, the need, there are many, many, many hymns outside of at least the Saturday Vesper service and
Okay.
Orthros service. We just don't have music for them.
Yeah,
You know,
okay.
yes, we didn't have translated text to most of these services, but also at the same time, we the last 15, 20 years, we have this kind of way more translations, text in English. Well, of course, you have a new text, you have to have music for it. I mean, and then seeing at least even with the things that we have for Vespers already existed. I mean, there was some, I just don't I want to make sure I pick my word very.
Yeah,
very
I understand.
we just had, a lot of things needed to be corrected in order, in the end of the day, to be called Byzantine chant. It had, to call something, some kind of a music, it has to follow some rules, some theories, scales, specific, or at least if I want to claim that I'm speaking English, that I'd better use the English language, the English alphabet, the grammar rules of English, and all of these things. I can't just make up words from the alphabet, English alphabet, and say, well, these are, so at least to be in the same, basically in communion with other churches that use that Byzantine style, especially if we say, well, we're going to use Byzantine style for these hymns.
Right. So yeah, so what you're saying there is you found examples of hymns that weren't necessarily following the tradition or the rules of Byzantine chant, and that was motivation for wanting to write new versions.
Exactly. Between this and the need of a new because of the new translation or new text, both of these.
Right. So both cases. Okay. How about you, Shadi?
Yeah, I mean, like the same as what Deacon John said, the same reason. Like I came to the States in late 2004 to St. George Cicero. And I mean, it was close to Christmas time. And I didn't know anyone back then. I did not know Chris Holloway. I didn't know that Deacon John was in the States. And I mean, I found out that there are many things lacking in my church at St. George. So I started writing hymns. And then I met Chris Holloway. And then I learned that Deacon John is in the States. And like my history with Deacon John goes back years before we both came to the States at the choir of the Archdiocese of Tripoli in Lebanon. And we also chanted together at the monastery where his uncle used to be the priest. Yeah, so basically that's it. I mean, I started with the nativity hymns, and then I moved on to the Paschal hymns. And then I learned about the Kazan music. I didn't know that it existed. And then, like Deacon John, I felt that there was a need. Like, I did not think that it was following the correct rules. And like both him and I shared the same opinion, and then we started working on things.
Okay. Interesting. And how about you, Jessica? You started out chanting in Greek, right?
Absolutely. Well, I come from a musical family. My mother was a composer. I also come from a so-called mixed marriage family, and my father did convert to Orthodoxy, but we did not speak Greek in the home, so I had no idea what the language was. Well, I shouldn't say no idea, little idea, virtually no translations. I was exposed to every type of music in the world, electronic, avant-garde, Baroque, you name it. I was immersed in that. I grew up in that. But I also grew up in the church hearing this amazing otherworldly music that I just loved. Now, anything that I heard in English, and that wasn't for many years, didn't sound at all like that. So, so basically, I had the same sort of experience as Shadi and Deacon John. What I was hearing was not in English, had nothing to do with what I was hearing in Greek that I could sense, even with my limited Greek, especially at that time. And what really made me want to compose was that when I went to college, I was in one of the first OCFs there were. I started to realize how potent those texts were that were just in this little book, you know, and that we were supposed to pray them musically. I'm a musician, you know, musically.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to be able to do this in English. So when I went to grad school at Eastman, I was attending the Greek Orthodox Church there, and the priest was a convert priest. And he let me go to the Psalterion. Remember, in case you forgot, I'm a woman. This was off limits.
Right.
But he let me go. And then I started studying everything that I could get my hands on in the Eastman Library. And I wrote my thesis on analysis so I could figure out everything that was going on. That's how much I wanted to fix this problem, to be able to hear in English, to be able to pray in English exactly what I was hearing so amazingly in Greek.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that actually leads me to the next question. So I'm going to go back to Shadi then, because you just referenced sort of how you learned to compose in English. You did some research, you did some analysis on how the hymns work. But Shadi, you mentioned that even when you were in Lebanon, you were taking hymns in Greek and you were writing settings in Arabic. What prepared you, or how did you learn how to compose?
Well, let me put it this way. Back home in Lebanon, like things were kind of loose, like in the sense that I'm not saying that they never or they did not use the formulaic rules, but they would take the formula, for example, and like play with the accented or non-accented syllables. For example, put syllables under some music notes that are not supposed to have syllables. Sometimes they would put some accented syllables where some unaccented syllables should go, and vice versa. And, you know, we never had any idea about like the exact rules of composition. And I still think that there are some people that have that mindset that as long as we are using the traditional formula, we can do whatever we want with the syllables in that formula, which I think it is wrong.
Yeah.
Because it sounds odd, like when you listen to it, like the way it is in Greek, for example, and then you listen to it in Arabic, it would sound odd, right? So when I came to the state, I got aware of the Divine Liturgy project that Father Ephraim started working on. And I got in contact with Father Ephraim, and because there were many typos in the music, and I was like sending them to him all the time. And then I learned of the workshop that he was doing about how to compose Byzantine music, and I did some reading about it. And this is how it started.
Oh,
And
interesting.
it all made sense. to me.
So did you feel that in some way that he had, and Papa Ephraim, he was the monk at St. Anthony's Monastery in Florence, Arizona. Do you
Yeah.
feel like in some ways he had better resources for explaining how the composition worked than you had available to you?
At least to me, like whatever I read and the workshop that he wrote in like details, it was very helpful to me.
Interesting.
And then I was like composing stuff and sending them to him, and like he would correct and direct me about like what to do.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
And
really
that-
cool.
And that went on for like a couple of years before he completely left the project.
Right.
And somebody else now took over, I think. But yeah, I started with him. Like I was in contact with him for a couple years.
That's really neat. And Deacon John, how about for yourself? How did you learn how to compose Byzantine music?
Honestly, in Arabic, I never tried.
Okay.
I just never tried it in Arabic. I mean, or I should say, nothing like official, like just publishing it and stuff.
Right.
When I came to the States, and I realized all the stuff that we talked about before, that something has to be done. And just to make it short, once you understand in a way how those formula or how these melodies go with the words or should go with the words and how they should serve how you accent those words.
Okay.
And of course, the St. Anthony's, Papa Ephraim's codified basically formulas helped a lot. The system that, and that's basically how I started. Because English was my third language, I wanted to make sure also, I mean, although I speak it well, I think.
Yeah, you do.
And I understand, at least how it's constructed in a way, if I can say.
Right.
I would still don't dare, even till today, I still make sure I run it by multiple people, and some actually on this panel, to check the text, Anything that I misaccented, anything that I might somehow not expressing, basically the proper way of listening, because you want to make sure when you compose what you're listening to in music as if like somebody's reading it to you.
Right.
So where would it be the emphasis, or the accent, and all of these things? So that's basically what I.
Yeah. So it would be fair to say in your case that Jessica did research. Shadi worked with Papa Ephraim. Would you say in your case it was more, given how much you had chanted in your life and your understanding of how these things work, it was more of an intuitive understanding that you could later confirm by looking at Papa Ephraim's formulas and things like that?
Been at the chant stand for like 30 years, I would say.
Right.
So 25 years of like heavy chanting with multiple types of choirs, even in different languages. So you develop in a way a lexicon of these type of melodies, and like Dr. Jessica said, a lot of the hymns in Greek, she would hear like make sense when you hear the word how it's done. Right. So we should apply the same concept, but now it's with another formula or another melody. So it focus on the English language.
Right. Excellent. Okay.
Charlie?
Good. Yes.
I may have given a little bit of misimpression when I said research. My research was analysis. This was long before St. Anthony's even started doing anything.
Well, I know.
So this was not just looking up other things. This was doing the analysis with the idea of reverse engineering. So I didn't mean to give that impression.
No, you didn't. And I know that, but maybe I'm glad you're clarifying, because you actually, if it wasn't for your doctorate, that this was actually your dissertation.
It was my master's thesis at Eastman, where I developed the whole process of how to look at a mode, how it was constructed, how the formulas interacted, where they stretched, where they shrunk, what all of that going together, that I then reapplied to and reverse engineered in order to start doing this. But my approach is completely different, and yet we get to the same place.
Right. No, I think what's really cool about it is that this resource that St. Anthony's provided has obviously helped out Deacon John and Shadi, but when you were getting into this, nothing exists. It's kind of like when I'm saying, when I started chanting, we had some things in English, some of it was good, some of it was not good. We started even writing, like I said, things of our own, or other priests would write stuff. We were just in search of anything that was better than some of the other stuff that we had. And so you're coming back from that era as well of, hey, there's nothing out here. You had to figure this stuff out on your own, which is obviously quite a feat in and of itself. So let me go back to Deacon John and all of you, and actually ask a different question. So say someone gives you a text, right? What process do you follow to set that text to the mode that it's supposed to be composed in? And just in terms of, okay, you have a text now. What are you going to do to figure out how to compose something to that?
Well, I mean, very importantly, a lot of the hymns that we have, we are given the tone for it. Mm. We not only the tone, the tone or the mode, but also what style. So we know if it's a doxa for a saint or a glory for a saint, it has to be sticheratic and stuff. After establishing all of this, I do two things like in the beginning. I read the text multiple times. And when I say multiple times, like multiple times. I just want it to sink in my head. Yeah. See what it's talking about, and where's the punch, point. Like where is it? Where are all these things, and then what I do, I look at other, basically in the Greek or in Arabic. At least those are the two languages I can, follow, and see classical compositions of these hymns, and see what the composer did. Some of these, at least in the Greek, they might go back to the 1700s, 1800s. So you'll see some kind of a continuity. And then you'll see people even till today, at least even if with new compositions, they were still based on these classicals. So I look at these classicals, and then I write multiple drafts too. And while I write multiple drafts, I record these drafts too. So I can also listen to them, not because, I like how this melody looks with this melody. So I record them to listen to them. And then after I do all of this, thank God I have also a few people that I mentioned, at least I said, I send them these drafts.
Right.
Let me know. Yeah. Again, with this one, and as a composer, you have to be open because you cannot know everything. Always somebody's like, well, you did this, but look what you did the melody before it or something. So I'm open to any edits. Then we post in a way, or right. Like, here you go. And then, but even with this, year after year, in a way, we still revisit them and see.
Yeah, that's right.
What did we do? Here now more people chanted it. Is it good? Is it too much? Advanced? Is it probably? But also, there's a limit. We cannot. Right. There's a line that we cannot go below in a way.
Right. Right. No, interesting. And Shadi, how about for you? What process do you follow?
So I would say all of the above, for whatever Deacon John said. And in addition to reading the text multiple times and trying to understand the feelings and the words that are in the text, I look at the punctuation. To me, punctuation tells me where to resolve a music sentence, for example.
Yeah.
And also, like in reading classical compositions in Greek, I try to find like something original. It's not my intention to make the music complicated, but for example, if we have a long text, for example, you cannot just make it plain simple, and just like, this is it, this is the music. Well, we have to add some action to it, right? Like to make it, like give it some like life. Like to me, the ESON is a big thing, and I try to change the ESON a lot in my compositions. Two, I try to find if there is like some kind of an original modulation that is being used in a specific tone, and try to find like a place in that piece to apply it. Like for example, ending on K in tone 8. To me, it's something very nice. Or ending on high Pa in tone 8. It's something original. K is not a main note in tone 8, but if you end on it, like you break that monotony, and Yeah, this is what I look for.
Yeah. Okay. No,
It's not my intention to complicate the music.
right, right. Yeah, no, interesting. And Jessica, what process do you follow?
Well, I love your question because you said compose Byzantine music to text. And when I started, the whole war was keep those melodies. They are sacred. Who cares about the text? And no, it's the text that is sacred. It's
Right.
it's all this. So just as Deacon John, I sit there and I may read it silently first, but I read it aloud. You know, it's what can I say? It's such an intimate process. You know, in academia, other than academia, I should say, I never really call myself a composer. I don't use the word composer, except for in academia, because that's all they know. In Byzantine terms, I'm a melodist, and sometimes I'm a hymnographer. And the difference is that composers are creative in a completely different way. A melodist is more like an iconographer. It's a sacred calling, a sacred duty, and you submit yourself to it. Prayer and fasting is essential. So I've got to pray that text. I've got to speak it aloud. This is something that is conveyed over time and space. It is not something that just happens in your own living room. It is prayer, living prayer, musically living prayer. And then I look at it. If a mode is specified, fine, you can go. But if not, then I need to think even more about the character. What mode do I choose? I need to consider the function of the hymn. Where is it liturgically? What is it doing? What is the priest doing at that time? What is the movement around there? What are the hymns surrounding it? How do they sound? What are the time constraints? Who will be chanting this? All of that has got to come into play. When I was writing for you, Charlie, yes, I'm writing liturgically, but I was also writing for your choir. That was very important to know for me as a composer. And then I keep looking at that text, saying that text, and I begin to write. And just like Deacon John, I write multiple versions for every line of that hymn. And Charlie, I think you know that because sometimes
Yeah, you told me that. Yeah, yeah. That was really cool when you said that, Deacon John. I was like, oh, wow.
And then I try to step away.
Yeah.
I try to step away. If time permits, if I'm not writing under the gun, or the liturgical spear, then I need to step away. And, because there are many good options, but there's often the best option out there. So I would love to step away for even more than a year where I've forgotten it completely. And, then I go back to it again. I say, oh, wait a minute. And then I'll go back and pull out those other options and I'll say, it seemed good to me at the time, but this would be better.
Yeah.
So I really think that is such a big help, is to step back. And now that I'm meeting you virtually, Shadi and Deacon John, I think that I have people to toss it to too. So that would be lovely in the future.
Yeah.
God willing, sure.
Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah. Walking away, like whenever you compose something, walking away is a very good thing.
Yeah.
And then come back to it, because when you are composing, your brain is saturated in such a way that you don't see what is flowing and what is not flowing, what is working or what is not working, what is accented and you did not accent the proper way, and then just leave it and forget about it. I have a whole service that I composed a few months ago and I haven't looked at for a few months now, and I'm planning on typing it and revising it like soon, very soon, because it's due in October.
And Charlie, if I make...
Yep.
Sorry.
No.
Go ahead, Jessica. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, because I'm often right now I'm writing for a mission parish, an OCA mission parish, that chants Byzantine music. I'm often writing very much under a time constraint. So I'm putting those hymns away for a full year. Yeah, I don't want to see them till next year when I chant them again, and that's when I will revisit them. That's how much time sometimes I think I need. Um, so, so sorry, Deacon John.
Good.
No, no problem. I just
Yeah, go
wanted to say one thing, which is, and I know because most of the time we don't have that opportunity. That's why, you know, it's been kind of a practice, at least in our archdiocese, that chanting from text on the spot, it is the common thing to do, and it's like the traditional, in a way, thing to do. Not knowing sometimes, and I know sometimes in cases we don't have music, I totally understand you have to come up with something. But chanting on the spot is literally composing. So after you heard the three composers talking how much, you know, they put into it, and then somebody really literally rolls out of bed and thinks, you know, that, oh, by just singing from the text, well, that's the tradition of Byzantine chant. With all due respect, that's not.
Yeah.
And how can you compose on the spot? I mean, I won't even dare that. Even if I wouldn't even dare, you know, again, I'm not, whenever you, if you can read music, you should read from compositions, even if you can do even better. You know, if you don't read music, learn music.
Yeah.
You know, of course, with unless God forbid there are some other issues, but this kind of chanting from text, just because I feel like I know now everything, from just even for composer, nobody does it even.
Yeah.
Just wanted to point that out.
Jessica.
Yeah, you know, I feel the same way, and yet so often I am handed a text at the last minute. And, you know, I make mistakes. I make mistakes when I do that. And I know that liturgically I must do the best I can to help the people there, then, at that moment, pray. And I have to just let it go. But I would never want to have a recording of it. I would never want to hear it again. I have done the best I could at that moment, but it was not what I would ever want to represent what I am as a melodist.
Yeah. Okay, great. Great answers to this question. So my next question is, what are some of the challenges that you've found composing, it's specifically in composing Byzantine music in the English language? And we'll start with Deacon John. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I think the main problem that I had before, and even today, we still struggle with it in a way. I mean, you can go in English for two full sentences with one syllable of word, you know, and just maybe 2 words out of those 20 words that they, you know, 2 syllables, you know, or 3. So it gives you this kind of like, it makes it harder, you know, when you look at Greek or Arabic. That does not mean it can be done, cannot be done, but these kind of, so basically, you know, we know in the end that Byzantine music was first established in, like Dr. Jessica pointed out very well, in the end of the day, it's not about the melody. The flat B and tone 1 thing is not going to decide my salvation. That's how I prayed in the end. But since St. Paul says everything should be done in order and to the best of our ability, so we have to put work in it too. But that being said, see, when I think about something, I lose my other thought. But anyway, anyway, it's for me when I compose in English, those kind of like basically challenges that I would have, you know, how to, well, here, now I remember. In Greek, you know, the music was done basically to serve the Greek language. Those melodies that we have, they were created, you know, for the Greek language, at least primarily, but following a system, you know, system of like a word of 4 syllables accented on a second syllable. Here are your options. Right. That does not mean that this, I mean, of course, the word in English is not going to be the same in Greek, but then you can apply the other formulas that, let's say, I don't know, resurrection, you know, 4 syllables accented on the third. Here are multiple formulas that you can use, maybe different than the ones used in Greek or in Arabic. Those kind of challenges, how to come up with new, if I can dare to say, new formulas, but still respecting the tradition as a whole, following the same, you know, scales, same melodies. So I think that's basically one of the biggest challenges there.
Interesting. Yeah, Shadi.
Yeah, as Deacon John said, like it's the nature of some words in English. Like, for example, if you have something like Christ God,
Right.
two accented syllables in a row. Like
Oh,
what?
yeah.
Like how do you manage? Like, I mean, it's hard to find a formula with two accented syllables in a row. And like as Chris would tell me sometimes, Christ is like would sound like one syllable, but it's actually it has like multiple phonetics in it. So you cannot do it for just one syllable as a one syllable. Yeah, mainly as like the nature of the English language, but we can manage. We can like there are like many ways around it. Like as Deacon John said, like creating probably some formulas within the line of the traditional formulas. Sometimes, as Father Ephraim mentioned in his workshop, like merging two formulas together in order to create a new formula. I mean, we have to respect the language and the rules like of pronunciation and the accentuation, and like try to manage as the best we could.
Interesting. Okay, and Jessica.
I think I'll focus on four things here. Number one, poor translations. And by this, I don't mean only inaccurate translations. Those are unforgivable. But translations that are not conceived as spoken. Our culture is now a literate culture. Our church is a proto-literate. It grew in a proto-literate society. It grew in an oral society. And basically, when you write and read with the eyes only, it is not comprehensible when heard by the ears only. And the hymnographers, that were writing in Greek, came from a culture where reading aloud was the way you read. It was automatically oral.
Right.
So they didn't have this challenge. It was de facto. So a melodist makes musical speech. And if that text is a muddy mess to begin with and not clear and understandable, it's very, very difficult to work with that. You do it, but it is not easy. It is a fight the whole way. Do the best that you can with that. Regarding the formulas, yes, sometimes there's a dearth of a particular accent, let's say, in a particular mode, either because because I'm coming from analysis, there wasn't, there was not a big enough statistical sampling. So we don't have a lot of options. So sometimes in a particular mode, you won't have a whole lot of options. And if it's a long hymn, it's going to get boring. But my analysis is such that, I don't create new formulas. I can look to see how, if that text accent pattern had been prevalent, it would have shaped. So that's how I address that part of it. Because again, sometimes statistically, we just don't have enough to work with. So basically, I can extrapolate a solution. I always mark it as such when I'm doing that. So I won't say anything more about that. There is only one problem that I really have in English, and it's been mentioned by other people working in this, not today, but working in composing, and that is Greek by its structure. I have no problems with length of words. I don't have no problems with monosyllabic words. But what I do have a problem with is that Greek only has accented words that are ultimately accented, penultimately, and anti-penultimately. But in English, we have a few anti-penultimate accented words like orthodoxy. So if it is in the middle of a sentence, no problem. If it is at a cadence, much more difficult to handle, and then usually one can handle it because there is a secondary answer on the penultimate syllable, and then you have to put a really good accent on the penultimate syllable to do that. So, but that's the hardest challenge, because there is no example of that in Greek whatsoever, since it doesn't exist linguistically.
Interesting. Yeah, and that was really what my next question was going to get to here. But you've kind of you guys have kind of already addressed that. Like, I know, for example, Mitri al-Nur, when he put the Byzantine chant to Arabic, he created a couple new formulas to help fit the syllabic patterns. Okay. And Kazan kind of took those, and that's why in Kazan you see the eighth notes and stuff like that. I think, yeah, he was kind of using that as an example. But I think to kind of round out this question is just, you guys have talked about combining formulas or creating new formulas. And I'm looking for a short answer here. So do you see the need, is there a need for people to kind of get together and talk about, hey, we need some new formulas to use because English is just different enough from Greek that we really should be asking this question about how should we make this work?
I mean, we already see this, we already see mine or other compositions that we see this new stuff. I mean, at some point it would be nice, maybe. I mean, well, one thing, I feel like always in the States, we want things to be done, quickly. We want things like codified book, tell me the paragraph, tell me the page, and I want it in a book, like now, and I'll, just 2 seconds. A lot of times now I have people like, and I appreciate their zeal and learn, and their love to learn how to chant, but then they tell me, how do we chant? Or the first week they start chanting, they want to compose, They want to like, oh, here's something I composed. Here's something I've done. Like, just take it easy. Learn how to chant. Maybe Dr. Jessica had a specific, case, but God bless her, we're probably not as intelligent, as her, Anyway, but the point is,
Dog it.
Learn, that's another thing I always get. People like, well, I'm a professional singer, opera singer, or I'm a composer of, whatever. What can I do to become a composer, Byzantine chant? Well, you just need to learn, like.
That's my next question, so go ahead. Yeah.
Learn, of course you have to learn the theory, be very, if I want to be a poet, or if I want to be, write a novel in English, what do I need? Well, first I need to know English, speak it at least. I need to know how to read it. I need to know the alphabet of it. I am very well versed in its grammar, its rules, all of these things, and read probably, well, leave it with hundreds of novels before to decide what, not just because I speak French, just because it uses the same alphabet. So ultimately in 2 days or in 1 day, tell me now, how can I write a novel in English? It just doesn't work.
Right.
It doesn't work. Yeah. You'll probably come up with something, but it's not going to take you too long. Probably 1-2 people chant it, and then they're going to say, see you later, we're going to do something else. Or chant from something else. Anyway.
Right. And a related question that we got from the audience was, that's what to do. Are there certain things people definitely shouldn't do if they want to compose? Or are there some things that they should avoid doing?
Well, learn. They need first of all, before anything, they need to know the Byzantine theory. Right. Not only the Byzantine theory, and of course the scales and everything, Byzantine notations. I know we have cases here in the States, like a lot of people, older people who are well versed in Western. Would we ask them after chanting 30 years or 40 years, they might not have the effort anymore to learn the notation back and stuff. But anyway, to be a composer, well, of course, you need to know the alphabet of that language.
Right.
I mean, I'll just also throw, in the old country in Lebanon, we grew up. Do you think we have Byzantine notation like in the conservatory? How do like singers sing and stuff, like they sing from Byzantine notation? They sing from staff notation. The only place that you learn Byzantine notation is basically the church. Right. So it's not like, I learned my Byzantine, notation at a conservatory or at some like music school, or even at school itself, our music class. I mean, everything was in Western or in staff notation. So learn these things very well, be well versed in it, then start, and we're more than happy to guide you and leave you. And I still, we said, we still learn from the people that we still even share our stuff to get our feedbacks on them,
Excellent. Shadi, what do you think people should do if they would want to aspire to composing Byzantine music someday?
Yeah, first I want to make a comment on Metril Mer, and this is my own opinion, and I could be wrong. I don't think he invented new formulas
Okay.
to fit the Arabic language. He was influenced by his knowledge of Eastern music, and at some places, like very rarely, that he like you could like taste that influence of secular music, not in his Byzantine writing. He did not create like new formulas. Most of the formulas that he used are like traditional 100%, except at some places, like, and I would like give one example. For example, like the troparion at O Lord, I Have Cried for the first bridegroom service. The word ascending, which translates to sa'idan in Arabic, I don't think I ever heard this formula in any classical Greek composition. But he did use it, and I think that this is like an influence of, like, he was a secular composer also. Like, he wrote a lot of secular music that I love. Like, they are beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think that at some places his composition is influenced by this kind of music. He did not create new formula.
Okay.
Back to your question, I do believe that in addition to what Deacon John said, I think that even if you don't read Greek, go back to those classical compositions and read as much as you can, parallel. Like, in order, like to learn how like those melodies are like put together, like how nicely they flow.
Right.
That's my recommendation. This is what I still do, actually.
Okay.
And YouTube is full of those like videos where like chanters are chanting, and
Yes.
you have the melody in front of you.
Okay. And what would your advice be, Jessica?
Well, first of all, the question was, when did I begin composing? It didn't say when I began composing well.
Oh.
So when I'm a music theorist, I teach music theory. I have those students begin part writing in Bach chorales very quickly, as soon as I can. It doesn't mean they're writing very good Bach chorales, but we're starting to get them there. So I want to say with humility that I wouldn't necessarily take early attempts and say I was there. I was experimenting with the analysis, what it could do, how I could regenerate from it. It was a process. So I do want to correct that. I didn't spring out of the box being able to compose.
Right. Right.
No,
Okay.
I was just very persistent in it. And probably, I'm not sure what still remains from those early attempts that I haven't burned.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
And as Deacon John, sorry, go ahead.
so back to your question.
Yep.
I agree. The reason I actually went to Greece to study Byzantine chant so I could immerse myself in that. I really needed to learn the repertoire, to hear it sung by very good chanters. The chanters that I was with were very prayerful, but not necessarily educated in Byzantine music as I was growing up. I felt that strongly about being able to know and being able to chant from Byzantine notation in Greek, knowing where those syllables are. And so what I would go with Shadi and say, even if you don't know, you can do paralahi, but I would go one step further and say, but take a Greek text and underline where the accents are.
Yeah.
And so because it's the whole text accent, musical accent relationship that drives this. And of course, now that we have more correctly set examples in English, one can supplement by studying those as well. But I really think going back to particularly the 19th century repertoire and looking at that is so critical for this. So I would go along with that. Other than that, listen and keep listening.
Yeah, excellent. Shadi, did you have another comment you wanted to make?
Yeah, yes, like about composing good music, like we still until now, and you know, Charlie, we run like our composition by many chanters, and we edit a lot.
Right,
Like nothing is gonna be perfect from the first time.
right, right.
So like I think like Deacon John said, like there's like composers should have like some kind of like humility and like accept the ideas of the others.
Yeah,
Like if like three people are telling you this doesn't work and you think that it works, well, it doesn't work.
right. Yeah, yeah, right.
Like have the humility to change it and edit it.
Well, I can say, but hold on. Three people who know what they're talking about, I mean, in their field.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
just to make sure, you know,
Yes.
Yeah, excellent.
at least in that field.
Yeah, well, this is great. What we're going to have to do, as we're doing with some of the other sessions, there are a lot of questions out there that, you know, we do agree we're going to get them answered eventually, you know, after the SMI is over. We're on a kind of a tight timeline because we're starting Vespers in 4 minutes. So I would like to take this opportunity, and since I'm chanting Vespers, I have to run upstairs, but I want to take this opportunity really to thank these three composers here, Jessica, Deacon John, and Shadi, because it's very personal for me. I have benefited in being able to pray with the music that you guys have composed, and I've observed your processes. I've been involved in all of them, and it's just it's really wonderful to behold, and it's an honor and a privilege to be involved in what you're doing and in the sacred work. And on behalf of everybody who's here in this webinar, I want to thank the three of you for all the work that you're doing in this area. It really means a lot to me personally. I know it means a lot to all the people that we have here who've benefited from singing your music. So I want to thank you for your time and being able to get this together. Obviously, this is such a popular topic. We could have spent another hour just answering a
I
question.
think probably next time we should have it even longer, and maybe
Yeah.
just for, I mean, Charlie, I cannot thank you enough, you know, for bringing that topic, you know, or at least this
think
kind of panel, and we'll probably, you know, we'll work, you know, but really appreciate that, you know, you
Well, I'm
think
glad
about
there's such interest in this, and I think it's important for everyone to hear what you guys had to share. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And what a joy to meet you, Deacon John and Shadi.
Yes, that was, you know,
And
Nice
to
meeting you
talk
too.
to you.
It
You
took
know,
coronavirus to get us together
Nice.
virtually, right?
Thank you, Charlie. What a gift this was.
No, this is
very good. And
you
too
know,
many more.
I
too many
admire all three of you and the work that you're doing, and I'm very thankful for it. And as I said, just it means a lot to me personally and to many of the people that I know. So continue on your sacred mission here. And thank you to all who showed an interest in being here. We had well over 70 people, and we will see you upstairs. I'll see you upstairs, those of you who are joining us for Vespers. Thank you.
Bye.
I'll let you close it out.